You've seen that kid who's not the smartest in class, doesn't study the hardest, yet somehow seems to glide through school with solid grades and everyone's respect. Meanwhile, you're cramming until midnight, and your report card still looks rough. What's the difference? It's not intelligence, it's strategy. Most students think school is about being smart. Wrong. School is a game with specific rules, and once you understand those rules, average intelligence becomes more than enough. The kids winning aren't necessarily smarter. They've just figured out the system while everyone else is still trying to brute force their way through with raw effort. Here's what nobody tells you. Teachers aren't grading your intelligence. They're grading your output, your behavior, and whether you make their job easier or harder. That's the actual game, and once you see it, everything changes. Let's start with the foundation. Your reputation with teachers matters more than almost anything else. I'm not talking about being a teacher's pet or sucking up. I'm talking about strategic positioning. Within the first 2 weeks of any class, teachers form an opinion about you that's incredibly hard to change. They decide if you're a good student, a problem student, or invisible. Most of you are getting categorized before you even realize the game started. So how do you control this? Simple moves that take almost zero effort. Sit in the front third of the classroom. Not the very front row where the overeager kids sit, but close enough that the teacher naturally makes eye contact with you. This does something psychological. Teachers unconsciously associate students they see more often with being more engaged. It's called the mere exposure effect, and it works. Ask one good question in the first week. Not a try-hard question, not something you already know the answer to. A genuine question that shows you're paying attention. This flags you as engaged in the teacher's mental roster. From that point forward, they're more likely to give you the benefit of the doubt on borderline grades. Here's something most students completely miss. Your classwork and homework are weighted differently than tests, but they shape how your tests get graded. Teachers are human. When they're grading your test and you're hovering between a B and a C, they glance at their mental image of you. If you've been consistently turning in work and participating, you get bumped up. If you've been absent and silent, you get rounded down. The test score isn't even entirely about the test. Now, let's talk about the actual work. You don't need to do everything perfectly, you need to do the right things visibly well. There's a concept called strategic effort allocation, and it's how smart workers operate in every field. Figure out what your teacher actually cares about, then deliver on exactly that. Most teachers have one or two things they're obsessed with. One teacher might be fanatical about showing your work in math. Another might care deeply about thesis statements in essays. Another might weight participation heavily. You figure this out in week 1 by watching what they emphasize, what they repeat, what makes them excited or frustrated. Then, you deliver on their priority obsession every single time. Meanwhile, the stuff they barely mention, that's where you can coast. I'm not saying turn in garbage, but you don't need to spend 3 hours perfecting something the teacher will glance at for 30 seconds. This is about efficiency. High performers in school aren't grinding on everything equally. They're grinding strategically. Let's get specific about assignments. Every assignment has a minimum viable product, the least amount of work that still gets full credit. Your job is to identify that threshold and not massively exceed it unless there's strategic value. I know this sounds cynical, but hear me out. Spending 5 hours on a homework assignment that's worth 10 points is objectively bad strategy when you could spend 2 hours, get the same 10 points, and use those extra 3 hours on a project worth 50 points. Figure out point values. Most teachers tell you exactly how much everything is worth. If they don't, ask, then allocate your time proportionally. This alone will boost your grades because you'll stop wasting effort on low-value tasks while bombing high-value ones. Now here's where it gets interesting. Tests are their own ecosystem with specific rules. You don't study harder. You study smarter by reverse engineering what's actually going to be on the test. And teachers tell you this information. They just don't say it directly. Pay attention to what gets repeated in class. If a teacher mentions something once, it might appear on the test. If they mention it 3 times across different lessons, it's definitely going to be there. Teachers aren't creative test writers. They pull from their lecture highlights because that's what they believe is important. Your job is to identify those highlights and focus there. When teachers say something is important, believe them. When they give review guides, that's basically the test outline. Most students ignore this free intelligence. The teacher is literally telling you what to study, and half the class is still trying to memorize the entire textbook. Here's another test hack nobody talks about. Old tests and quizzes from earlier in the year. Teachers recycle questions. Not always, but enough that it matters. If you bombed a quiz 2 months ago, go back and learn those questions now, because variations of them will show up on the final. Teachers build assessments from question banks they've used before. It's faster than writing new ones every time. So that unit test you took in September, those questions are going to reappear in slightly different forms. Smart students keep every graded test and quiz. Not to forget about them, but to study from them later. This is your personal database of what this specific teacher thinks is worth testing. Now, let's destroy the biggest myth in education. The idea that you need to understand everything deeply to get good grades. You need to understand enough to answer the questions that will actually be asked. There's a massive difference. Deep understanding is valuable for life, sure, but for grades? You need pattern recognition and answer formulas. Take English essays. Teachers say they want original thinking, but they're actually grading against a rubric. That rubric has specific boxes: strong thesis statement, textual evidence, analysis of quotes, proper conclusion. You can write the most philosophically profound essay in human history, but if it doesn't check those boxes, you're getting a B-. Meanwhile, someone who follows the formula exactly, even if their ideas are basic, gets an A. The system rewards structure over substance. Once you accept this, school becomes dramatically easier. Math works the same way. Teachers aren't testing whether you've achieved mathematical enlightenment. They're testing whether you can execute specific problem types. So you don't need to understand why the quadratic formula works on some cosmic level. You need to memorize it and know when to apply it. That's the difference between studying for understanding versus studying for grades. One takes 50 hours, the other takes 5. Here's the controversial part. Sometimes you should prioritize memorization over comprehension. I know that sounds backward, but in the short term, when you're trying to boost grades fast, memorization gets results. You can understand the concept later when you have time. Right now, you need points. Flashcards, repetition, rote learning. It's not intellectually satisfying, but it works. The understanding can come after you've secured the grade. People will tell you this is shallow, those people aren't wrong, but they're also not failing classes. You can be intellectually deep later. Right now, you're in triage mode. Stop the bleeding first. Let's talk about the dark art of teacher communication. You need to be visible, but not annoying. There's a narrow band where teachers remember you positively without thinking you're trying too hard. Here's how you hit it. Ask one good question per class, not a random question. A question that shows you were paying attention and thought about the material. This signals engagement without being excessive. After class, occasionally approach the teacher about something specific from the lesson. Not every day, maybe once a week. Say something like, "That point you made about photosynthesis connecting to cellular respiration made sense. Does that mean?" Then ask a genuine follow-up. You're showing you listened and you're thinking. Teachers love this. It's rare. Email teachers when you're genuinely stuck, but frame it right. Don't say, "I don't understand anything." Say, "I understand X and Y, but I'm stuck on Z specifically. Could you clarify?" This shows you tried first. Teachers are more willing to help students who demonstrate effort. The ones who show up saying they're completely lost just get told to review the chapter. Office hours and tutoring sessions. Go to them. Even if you don't desperately need help, showing up signals that you care about improvement. Teachers remember who comes to office hours. When grading time comes and they're deciding between giving you an 89 or a 90, that memory tips the scale. You put in extra time. You get the benefit of the doubt. Now here's something most students never figure out. Teachers talk to each other about students. If you're killing it in one class, being helpful and engaged, that reputation spreads. Other teachers hear about you. Suddenly you're walking into new classes with a positive preconception. The reverse is also true. Screw up badly enough in one class and other teachers know before you even arrive. Your reputation is a currency. Manage it. This doesn't mean being fake. It means being strategically genuine. Show up, do the work, engage authentically, but consistently. The compounding effect of a good reputation is massive. One teacher becomes an advocate, then another. Eventually, you've got multiple teachers who actively want you to succeed and will give you opportunities others don't get. Let's address the elephant in the room. Group projects. You hate them. Everyone hates them. But they're great opportunities if you play them right. Here's the move. Volunteer to organize immediately. Not do all the work. Organize. Create the shared document. Set up the first meeting. Delegate tasks clearly. Why? Because teachers grade participation and leadership separately from output quality. If you're the organizer, you're automatically getting full participation points even if the project itself is mediocre. Plus, you control the narrative. When something goes wrong, you're the one explaining what happened to the teacher, which means you frame who contributed and who didn't. Smart delegation means giving yourself the easiest high-impact task. Take the introduction or conclusion. These sections are shorter, but carry weight. Let other people handle the dense middle sections. You do less work, but your section gets seen first and last. Perception matters. Then compile everything and make it look polished. Consistent formatting, clean design, proper citations. This takes 30 minutes, but makes the whole project look like effort was invested. Teachers notice presentation. 2 identical projects with different formatting get different grades. That's not fair, but it's reality. Use it. When presenting, go first or last. Middle presentations blend together and get forgotten. First sets the standard. Last leaves the lasting impression. Both positions are advantageous. Practice your section until you can deliver it without notes. Eye contact, clear voice, confident posture. Even if your content is average, strong delivery elevates perceived quality. Teachers are human. They're influenced by presentation style, whether they admit it or not. Now, the nuclear option. Extra credit. Some teachers offer it, some don't. For those who do, complete every single extra credit opportunity. I don't care if it's worth half a point. Points are points. That half point might be the difference between letter grades. Students ignore extra credit because it feels like extra work for minimal gain. That's exactly why you should do it. Low competition, guaranteed points, and it signals to the teacher that you're maximizing every opportunity. When they're deciding your final grade, they remember who took advantage of every chance they offered. For teachers who don't offer extra credit, ask if you can do it anyway. Specifically, ask if you can redo a previous low-scoring assignment or complete an alternate version for partial credit recovery. Some teachers will say no, but some will say yes, and those recovered points cost you nothing but time. The worst they can say is no, which leaves you exactly where you started. There's no downside to asking. Test corrections. If your teacher offers test corrections for partial points back, do them for every single test, even tests you did well on. Go back, understand what you missed, write out the corrections. This serves 2 purposes. 1, you get points back. 2, you're reviewing material that will likely appear again on the final exam. You're studying while earning points. That's efficiency. Let's talk about the final stretch. Last month of the semester. This is where everything either comes together or falls apart. Check your grades obsessively. Know exactly where you stand in every class. Calculate what you need on remaining assignments and finals to hit your target grade. Most students don't do this math until it's too late. You need to know the numbers now, so you can allocate your effort strategically. If you're borderline in a class, that's where your energy goes. A class where you're comfortably passing gets maintenance effort only. A class where you're locked into a certain grade, no matter what, also gets deprioritized. Ruthlessly focus on the classes where your effort will actually change the outcome. This is cold calculation, but you have limited time and energy. Deploy both where they matter most. Communicate with teachers about your goals. If you're 1 point away from the next letter grade, tell them. Say you're aware of where you stand and you're committed to hitting that threshold. Ask what you can do in the remaining weeks to get there. Some teachers will give you specific advice. Some will create opportunities that didn't exist before. You're showing intentionality and drive. That matters. Finally, the finish line mentality. Everyone burns out at the end. They see the semester ending and they coast. That's when you push hardest. When everyone else is checked out, you're locked in. The last 3 weeks are where you can pass people who've been ahead of you all semester. They relax, you don't. That's the difference. You've got the system now. Teacher relationships, strategic studying, calculated effort deployment, reputation management. It's not about working yourself into the ground. It's about working smart in a system that rewards specific behaviors. Play the game better than everyone else, and you'll win. School isn't about being the smartest person in the room. It's about understanding the system and making it work for you. You've got the blueprint now. Strategic positioning, calculated effort, reputation management, smart studying. These aren't tricks. They're how the game actually works. Most students will keep grinding blindly. You won't. You'll play smarter, and that makes all the difference.